So I'd like to tell you the two things that I absolutely believe that every person should do with a compass. And I'm not recommending necessarily that you become an expert with the compass. I think everyone should have a good working knowledge, but these two things I believe are essential to potentially save your life and just allow you to have a lot better time, more confidence outdoors. Thing number one is actually have a compass. And it doesn't matter what kind of compass it is for what I'm about to tell you. The more basic, the better. I don't go anywhere in the outdoors without a simple wrist compass on. These have their limitations, but they also have advantages. One of those is that it's always on you, it's right there, it's easy to reference. Short of that, if you don't want to do a lot of really hardcore orienteering or a lot of navigation work, just get yourself a $30 or $40 compass like this, and it'll do the trick for you. And then a lot of people who, especially were in the military, such as myself, prefer a Lensatic compass. It just moves a little bit differently with the dial. But the important thing that all of these have going for them is, one, they're a compass, and they will show you where magnetic north is. And two, they can allow you to do the next thing. So thing number two is, wherever you're going, anytime you're adventuring, you should set what's called an escape azimuth. And that is just a fancy way of saying you should know what direction you need to go to get out and get yourself back to civilization. So I'll give you a good for instance. Today, I drove in to this location and parked my vehicle on a road that predominantly runs north to south. I knew that from the vehicle, I was only going to hike west of that road. So again, the road is going north to south. I was only going to hike west of the road. And so my escape azimuth is east. All I have to do to get back to that road is generally go east. And this is where you don't have to be an expert with your compass, and you can have a super basic compass to always be able to establish an escape azimuth and know how to get yourself out. So, all I really need to do with my compass is know which direction north is, magnetic north. That's easy. All compasses have an arrow that points north. And then from there, I know all my cardinal directions. So if I know north, I know south, I know east, I know west. And for whatever reason, if I were to get disoriented, I would just know that as long as I reference my compass, walk east, I'm gonna get to that road. Now you may be thinking, I don't need this. I have a GPS. I'm a seasoned outdoors person. I know the terrain I'm in. And it is true that GPSs are awesome, and most people that go in the outdoors use them now. However, they have some disadvantages. Whether it's your phone or your GPS, they're battery based. Batteries can die, things get wet, things fall down and the screen cracks and you can't read it. There's a lot of things that can get damaged on it. A compass is a pretty simple tool. It can also get damaged, but it's an amazing item to have with you. And I would recommend you don't even utilize it as a backup. You actually just have one either in your pocket or on your wrist at all times. And that's gonna help you make sure that you do your practice of setting that azimuth, your escape azimuth. So, you still recording with us? All right. I'll give you an example of a couple instances where you may be incredibly seasoned in the outdoors, but you still need to reference that compass. So a couple years ago, I was chukar hunting. I live in Idaho. Chukar are a type of partridge that lives in super steep, kind of volcanic rock kind of terrain. And I was way up on an isolated plateau. When I started the day, it was beautiful, heavy sun, blue skies. You could see for 10 plus miles from the top of this plateau. However, as the day progressed, a super like pea soup fog came in and I couldn't see anything. I had maybe 50 feet visibility, and I'd been hunting all over the bluff. And there's nothing up on that bluff that really distinguishes where you're at. So I pulled out my compass, I referenced my escape azimuth because I knew the road that I had parked on coming in, and I simply hiked myself to the road and was able to get to my vehicle. Another thing I like to do in the outdoors, which a lot of seasoned outdoor people like to do, is morel hunt. or mushroom hunt. In this area is primarily morels in the spring. Sometimes I find myself in an area where it's more kind of rolling hills, not big terrain. And I can tell you, when the mushroom fever hits you, you're just heads down, looking under every bush, you're looking at the ground the whole time, and it's really easy to move yourself around and become disoriented. And it's just awesome to know your escape azimuth, because it takes a day from, a situation where maybe you have some panic to a day where you just have a lot of confidence to go have fun, and you know that you're going to be able to get back and get to your car pretty quickly. So don't overcomplicate it. It's not so much a skill as just a practice of having a compass, having it accessible, and then every time you leave your vehicle, setting that escape azimuth. It's preferable that you've looked at a map ahead of time and potentially know that, I drove in on a road that runs east to west. And then when you get there, you know roughly where you're at, and say I'm hiking north of the road, well then I know my escape azimuth is south. But you can also, if you haven't looked at a map, it is preferable to look at the map, but if you haven't looked at a map, you can even set an escape azimuth once you park your vehicle, just by getting out, checking your compass, and using your compass to figure out what direction the road predominantly goes. That can have some risk, of course, because roads curve. Sometimes you don't exactly know what the predominant direction is if you haven't been paying very close attention.